Hello, and welcome back to the Little Black Whiskey Notebook, where I get to share with you my tasty notes with some whiskeys. Today, we're going to be sampling the Sexton. Now, I was initially drawn to this, not just because I found it in the clearance section of my local liquor store, although, but this is an Irish whiskey with a skeleton wearing a top hat. Sold, right? Like, not only was it a bargain, come on. The whole vibe of it, like the bottle looks really unique and interesting, so I was drawn to it, had to try it out. Also, on the side of the bottle, you're probably not gonna be able to see it, but there's a carriage with a skeleton and a skeleton horse. So death is coming for us all. And, you know, sometimes it's nice to just not take life quite too seriously. So this whiskey itself is kind of a unique one on its own. Like there aren't any different expressions, there aren't any different age statements or cask finishes or anything. It's just kind of what it is. And it is at this point widely believed to be created by Bushmills. Because if you look at the county, it's County Antrim in Northern Ireland. There's only one distillery in that county. So everyone kind of assumes it's theirs. There is a Bushmills sherry cask finished. This particular whiskey, 100% malted barley, is also sherry finished. So it's entirely possible these are the seconds, but hey, it's all good. We're here to enjoy ourselves some whiskey. I love a good sherry cask finish. Sold, you know? Even the cap has like the cute little skeleton with the top hat. Like, come on. As you can tell, there's not a whole lot left in this bottle. I've definitely been enjoying it and would certainly repurchase. At the price point, it's around $30 if you were to get it at full retail. So we're going to be comparing it based on that. You know, it's not necessarily fair to compare something at a $30 price point to something at the $100 price point, which the Bushmills sherry cask finished whiskey is. So we're just going to keep ourselves at the level that we're at and enjoy this for what it is. So it's a pretty dark caramely color, which, given the sherry cask finish, is to be expected. You're definitely getting on the nose some of those nice fruit notes that you'd be expecting from, again, the sherry cask finish. But there's still a little spice there, right? You've got like thoughts and vibes of holiday cake or something, or you've got like the dark cherry sort of vibe in here, along with some spice, little hints of vanilla. It doesn't come off as being too aggressive, so I always like that. It's a little hard when you first take a sniff and, you kind of have to write off the first sniff, and then after the second or third, you can really start pulling out the notes. It does not take long for the spice notes to come for you with this one. I feel like if you were to take like the orange peel and kind of candy it, and then dip it in some really dark chocolate, and then have some of those like baking spices. So it feels like there's a lot going on. Like it's a little heavy's not quite the right word, but there's a fair bit of complexity and just flavor to this. It's not really light at all. There's definitely a lot of heat and a lot of spice. So I don't know that it tastes quite as toasted to make it more of a caramely. It's still a little bit of a honey. I do feel like on the finish, it's almost medicinally like you'll get in a younger whiskey, but it's not distracting. You're not sitting there like annoyed by it. It's more after you've had really heavy clove. So the finish is more spice, like you lose those fruit notes. I do wonder where the inspiration for the name came from, with it being the Sexton. My first thought, there's sextant, which is what you'll use in like navigation out in the ocean if it was like, the 1500s or something, like way back in the day before they had satellite service. I'd have died basically if I had to use that darn thing. So that's not what it is. It's the sexton in as modern as it was ever used as a term is more like the graveyard keeper. So like the person who works at the church who's in charge of keeping the graveyard in, nice order, digging the graves even, and some other jobs around the church. So I think that's kind of the inspiration for the skeleton. Either way, I love it. It's super fun. I'd like to hear the whole story of how it got its name. I'm also curious to hear what other projects the master blender Alex Thomas is working on. She really has something nice here, considering the price point. Like, there's some complexity, it's fun, it's a nice sort of fall vibes kind of whiskey. Not something you're going to worry about having a glass of on an evening. You're like, oh, it's not going to break my wallet if I have some of this. So it adds a little character to your bar cart for sure. I mean, the bottle looks really cool. It's super interesting. It's a nice kind of a winter alternative if you're looking for something to just have on a Tuesday evening when you're watching a movie or something. It's not so complex that you're going to want to sit here and really pull out notes, right? Like, if you want something, you're going to be watching Game of Thrones again, or you're going to be watching something on television or a movie. You just want to have a nice whiskey to accompany it. This really sort of fits the bill in that part of your life. So I'm always trying to figure out when I would have something, and I definitely do find myself reaching for this. Maybe you're going to sit down and watch the Vikings. I don't know. So I would give this a rating of nice casual night out, like 3 stars, right in the middle. You feel like you're getting a good value for what you're paying, right? And it's something that's you don't have to think a lot about. You're not sitting here trying to be like, oh, I need to sip and savor. Like, you can just pour yourself a glass and enjoy it. If you've enjoyed these tasty notes, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for some more notes.